Okay, so we're diving in some pretty heavy stuff today.
Yeah, looks like someone sent in a whole stack on, well, capitalism versus socialism.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about a potential, systemic shift. A lot of folks are asking about it.
Right, and it's not just some abstract debate. It boils down to how we organize our entire society.
Totally. So at the most basic level, we're talking private ownership and markets. That's capitalism, right?
Right. Versus, collective or state ownership, more regulation, that's the socialist model.
And we've got sources here arguing both sides, some for the shift,
Hmm.
some against. I think our mission is to really unpack the core arguments
Yeah, give everyone listening a clear picture of, what the debate really is.
without taking sides ourselves,
A
obviously.
source, of course, just laying it all out. So, I mean, where do we even begin?
Well, I think a lot of the arguments for socialism center around wealth inequality.
Definitely. One of the articles, I think it was the one from The Atlantic, highlighted how the top 1% holds so much of the wealth.
Yeah, and that's a huge problem for a lot of people.
Right. And the socialist perspective argues that this kind of concentration is, well, inherently unstable, leads to exploitation.
And they have some ideas on how to change that, right?
Yeah. So progressive taxation is a big one. Higher earners contribute a larger percentage.
Okay, so more taxes for the wealthy.
Exactly. And then the other piece is universal access to services.
Okay, interesting. So everyone would have access to healthcare, education, housing, that kind of thing.
Exactly. A lot of the sources argue that this would not only reduce poverty, but actually fundamentally improve the quality of life for everyone.
Makes sense. There was one study, I think it was in the Lancet, that showed a correlation between strong social safety nets and better health outcomes.
Interesting. Yeah, so the argument is that by ensuring everyone has those basics, you actually lift up the whole society.
So it's not just about taking from the rich and giving to the poor.
Right. It's about investing in the well-being of the entire community.
And that ties into another point that kept coming up, the focus on societal well-being over corporate profit.
Ah, yeah, that's a key distinction. A lot of the socialist thinkers, from Marx onward, they really critique the idea of profit as the primary motivator.
Yeah, they see it as inherently exploitative.
Exactly. And they argue that by focusing on the collective good, you create a more equitable, less exploitative system.
And potentially a more stable one too, right?
Yeah, there's this argument that state control of key industries, think like energy, transportation.
Stuff everyone needs.
Exactly. They argue that this could actually reduce the wild market swings we see under capitalism.
Interesting. So instead of companies making decisions based on profit, the government would focus on what people actually need.
Right, and ensuring those resources serve the public good consistently. Now, all that said, your sources also present some pretty strong counterarguments.
Yeah, not everyone's on board with a socialist vision. A big concern seems to be the potential impact on innovation and efficiency.
Yeah, a lot of folks worry that if you overemphasize equality, you might actually stifle the drive to innovate and work hard.
Because why bother pushing yourself if everyone's getting the same rewards anyway?
Right, exactly. And one article, I think it was from The Economist, cited historical examples where state-run industries just stagnated.
So less competition could actually lead to less progress overall.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
And that kind of bleeds into the bigger concern about state overreach. You know, too much power in the hands of the government, even if they have good intentions.
Right, that slippery slope to authoritarianism, which some folks argue is inevitable with socialism.
And, I mean, we've seen historical examples, right? Centrally planned economies struggling to, meet the needs of their people.
Yeah, shortages, inefficiencies, that kind of thing.
Right. So even if the goal is to create a more equitable system, if it doesn't actually function well, then everyone suffers.
And then there's a whole dependency argument too, right?
Oh, right. Some people worry that if the state provides everything, it could discourage individual responsibility. Why work hard if you don't have to?
So essentially they fear creating a culture where everyone's just reliant on the government handout.
Exactly. Which brings us to, I guess, the real world examples your sources brought up, like the Nordic countries.
Right, Sweden, Denmark, they always come up in these discussions.
They kind of have this hybrid model, right? Capitalist economies, but with strong social safety nets.
So they're kind of proving that you can have both economic freedom and social welfare.
To some extent, yeah. Though, of course, they have their own challenges, too.
Right, and then on the flip side, you've got the historical example of the USSR.
The poster child for the pitfalls of a centrally planned economy.
Though, I mean, even in largely capitalist systems, you see socialist ideas popping up.
Yeah, like universal healthcare in Canada or the UK shows that you can implement some of these principles within different frameworks.
So ultimately, what all this boils down to is it's a debate about values.
Totally. Are we prioritizing equity and well-being, or are we prioritizing individual freedom and economic efficiency?
And the answer, I think, depends on what kind of society you want to live in.
Exactly. And I think that's the question everyone listening needs to grapple with. What do you value most? And what kind of future do you want to build?
Because ultimately, the system we choose will shape all our lives.
And the choices we make today will have ripple effects for generations to come.
So yeah, a lot to think about. Thanks for helping us unpack all this.
No problem. Always happy to dive into these complex issues.
And for everyone listening, keep those questions coming. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.
See you then.